I never believed in destiny, not in the poetic, star-crossed way people from the core worlds used the word. But I suppose destiny doesn't ask for belief, only presence. And I was present the night the alien vampire girl climbed into my expedition shelter, trembling like a wounded shadow, her silver eyes glowing through the dim emergency lamp. It began on the 4th week of our survey mission on Gliese 47G, a cold, wind-beaten exoplanet whose violet skies never cleared and whose surface hummed with faint, almost musical electromagnetic vibrations. The planet was fascinating in its inhospitable way, but storms made it nearly impossible for our orbital team to extract me. My rover had malfunctioned, communication signals were patchy, and worst of all, my shelter's external heater had died. Night temperatures could drop to lethal levels. I had rations, oxygen, and emergency power, but heat, not enough. I was rationing it second by second. That was the night she appeared. I had just sealed the sleeping bag around my shoulders, trying to trap every bit of warmth, when the warning sensors flickered. Something alive, humanoid, approaching the shelter from the storm. I grabbed my beacon flare and unzipped the entrance flap just a crack. What I saw looked at first like a nightmare sculpted from glowing snow. She was tall but collapsed to her knees the moment she crossed the threshold, her long dark hair coated with frost, her skin pale enough to reflect the emergency lights. 2 delicate fangs peeked from her parted lips, though she looked more exhausted than threatening. Her irises, a luminous silver, locked onto me with a mixture of desperation and caution. Her voice was a hoarse whisper. "Warmth, please." I should have reacted with protocol. Scan her, alert orbit, maintain distance from unidentified Zenobia forms. But her body was shaking violently, and the temperature outside had already dropped to a deadly -70 degrees Celsius. If I forced her back out, she wouldn't survive. And I would never forget that look in her eyes. "Come in," I said, pulling her the rest of the way inside. She collapsed fully against the floor, curling up instinctively. I tossed her the thermal blanket, but her fingers barely twitched around it. Her species, whatever she was, seemed deeply sensitive to the cold. "My name's Rian," I said, adjusting the emergency heater closer. "I won't hurt you." After a long moment she nodded. "Let hurry," she murmured. Even speaking seemed to cost her strength. I set my datapad aside and moved the sleeping bag's spare flap open. "This is the only real heat source I have," I said. "If you're freezing to death, then you can share it. But I need to know you won't harm me." Her silver eyes softened. "I do not feed without consent," she said quietly. "And never on travelers." Travelers, I noted. Not humans. Travelers like she'd seen others before. She read the hesitation on my face and added, "I need only warmth tonight. Not blood." That was enough for me. I guided her into the sleeping bag, and she moved with surprising grace despite her exhaustion. The space was cramped, forcing us close, her cold skin brushing mine. She shivered relentlessly and instinctively, maybe foolishly. I wrapped my arms around her to help her absorb the heat. Her response was immediate. She hugged me suddenly, tightly, desperately. Her fingers clutching my back like someone gripping onto the last ledge above a cliff. Her face pressed against my chest, hair spilling across my neck. Her cold breath trembled against my skin. The contact startled me enough to gasp, but I didn't pull away. In the dim light, I felt her tension slowly releasing like a spring unwinding. Her trembling eased as the shared warmth spread through the bag. "I apologize," she whispered. "My species, when freezing we anchor to heat. It is instinct. I could not stop myself." "It's all right," I said, and to my own surprise I meant it. "Just breathe. You're safe now." When she finally drifted into a steadier, calmer state, I asked, "Are there more of you out there?" She hesitated. Once. "Not now." Her tone carried centuries of loss in 2 words. Through the night we spoke in soft fragments. She explained that her people, the Letherith, evolved on a dim, dying world where warmth and life were rare. Their reputation as vampires came from their biological dependence on bioenergy, not blood specifically, but the warmth and bioelectrical field that living beings radiated. They could take it, but they could also simply bask in it, sharing life rather than stealing it. She had come to Gliese, 47G, searching for a long-lost research outpost, the last attempt by her species to escape extinction. But storms had destroyed her craft. She'd been wandering the cold plains for 2 days. "You saved my life," she whispered near dawn. "Why?" "Because you needed help." Her silver eyes glowed softly. "Your species is reckless and kind." When morning came, the storm finally broke long enough for me to re-establish contact with orbit. Rescue was possible, but only for one. My shelter, my gear, everything was too damaged to support a second evac. I refused to leave her behind. "We'll extract together," I insisted through the comms. "She's sentient. She's sapient. And she saved my life too." That last part wasn't entirely literal, but in truth, her presence, her warmth, her strange, quiet strength, had kept my fear at bay through the coldest night of my life. The survey team hesitated, but they agreed. Humanity had rules about abandoning sapient survivors. Lethari looked stunned when I told her she'd be evacuated with me. "You would bring a dying species into your skies?" she asked. "I'm bringing you," I corrected. "The rest, we'll figure out from there." When the lander finally descended in a burst of white steam, she paused at the threshold of the shelter. "Rian," she said softly, "if I take your hand now, my life changes forever." I offered it without question. Her fingers slipped into mine. Cool, gentle, no longer trembling. As we walked toward the lander, she leaned subtly against me, as though still savoring the borrowed warmth. And I realized that her sudden hug, that desperate clutch inside the sleeping bag, was not instinct alone. It was trust, the beginning of something new, fragile, and extraordinary. In the end, I didn't save an alien vampire girl. We saved each other.